Greetings travelers, I'm Gav. In this video we'll delve into the rich lore and fantasies of each class and mastery in Last Epoch, up to version 1.0. Each playable character has their own backstories and motivations within the World of Eterra. Yet as fate would have it, they all wind up along the same path, trying to prevent their world and timeline from a ruined future. By the end of this video, you will have the knowledge to select the class that resonates with the class fantasy that you desire most for your first playthrough. I won't be deep diving their skills or skill trees, as these are already covered by fantastic creators and websites within the community. I want to focus mostly on the lore of the game and Eterra on my channel. At the end of the video, I'll be showcasing the resources and tools you can use to further explore the class you're interested in. I'll also include links in the description if you want to take a look at their skills and skill trees and dive a bit deeper. If you want to stay until the very end, I'll also be unveiling the class and mastery I plan to play in 1.0. Warning: this video contains footage from Last Epoch and delves into lore discussions and story elements. If you'd prefer to watch Eterra's mysteries firsthand without spoilers, you might want to watch this video later. I hope to foster a community of lore enthusiasts and host healthy discussions, theorizing about the game's lore and narrative. Now, back to the video. Eterra has seen many powers rise and fall throughout its history. We, as the heroes of the story, travel through time attempting to restore our timeline. The present day takes place in the Divine Era, and is where the game begins. The Divine Era is one of godly disputes that leave lands ravaged and civilizations in constant strife. The Ancient Era shows us the primal wilds of the once pristine lands that Eterra herself constructed from atop her tower. We plot to overthrow the immortal emperor of the Imperial Era, whose greed and gluttony for souls is thought to have brought the greatest threat to our world, the Void.
All-consuming darkness spread across the surface and drove us into these caves, the last city of humanity, last refuge. Now that the Void has finally found us, it will reach this place and snuff us out.
Seemingly every timeline through an infinite number of timelines lead to the same future. A ruined era that has the world of Eterra almost entirely consumed by the Void. The Void is a sinister power with an endless hunger that consumes everything in its path, leaving only darkness and despair. I'm still digging further, but the Void and corruption is seemingly spread by a being called Oribus. Oribus seems very eldritch in nature and seems to be 5 steps ahead of us in our attempt to restore our timeline. I don't yet know their true motivations or what exactly the Void is, but I intend to find out in future videos. It's up to us to use the goddess Eterra's most precious artifact, the Epoch, the last of its kind. The Epoch is a device that allows us to travel through time, traversing the aforementioned eras and working to prevent the Void from coming to and corrupting Eterra. All the while, we are attempting to stop both Raye's divine conquest as well as bringing an end to the immortal emperor's reign. How we go about doing all of that and what we as the player character bring to the table depends on what class and mastery you choose. A mastery is the point of ascension where we choose our class's specialization. In the lore, this is done in the End of Time with the help of Elder Gaspar. End of Time is a zone we find ourselves in after combining 2 of the 3 parts of the Epoch, early on in the campaign. The End of Time is all that remains of our timeline, a timeline we need to fix. Elder Gaspar presents us with the concept that there are countless alternate versions of ourselves existing across infinite timelines.
Our potential is infinite. Infinite in strength, yet at risk of drowning in a sea of other selves. Countless alternate versions of you have come and gone, only to drift away into nothingness. Some of them were strong, and their power can be absorbed, given a new home in you. if you allow me, I will guide a measure of your other selves to you. This will tie their lost fate to one which still holds hope.
We make our mastery choice, and he guides those past selves, also called shades, to us, and we absorb their power to further our desired potential. Starting off the class options with the Primalist.
I am the Primalist, man of the wilds, the link between the people of my tribe and the spirits of the land. I was returning to my home in Heoboria from a hunt, only to find flames and destruction, a raid by the forces of Raya. My home and my family had been turned to ash. The call came for the tribes to unite, but I am drawn elsewhere. Now I am traveling to the Temple of Eterra in search of answers from the Mother Goddess and the strength to take my vengeance.
The Primalist's name has a dual meaning for me. Primal as in primitive in nature, but also primal as in deeply connected to the world of Eterra and its spirits. The Primalist is a warrior from the freezing northern lands of Heoboria, lands that lie under the dominion and protection of Heorot himself. The Heoborian people are fierce warriors, trained from a young age to both hunt and fight to defend their tribes. They live under constant threat and onslaught of both the harsh cold climates as well as the fierce Wingari tribe. The Wingari are a militaristic group of goatmen that have a hatred for humans,
Die, human!
and capture and feed them to their wolves.
My beasts will eat well.
In future videos, we'll dive further into the Wingari tribe and how they stole the Blessed Horn, which is needed for entry to Heorot's temple. The Primalist class harnesses the raw elements of Eterra and the spirits that dwell within it. Their masteries include the Shaman, with the ability to fully harness the totemic and natural power of the Primalist. The Shaman devastates its foes with the ability to control earthquakes, summon a wintry avalanche down on its enemies, as well as create a tornado out of thin air. Its class fantasy is that of a very tribal and nature-attuned warrior of Eterra, prepared to do what he must to protect the future. The Beastmaster, a nature-attuned huntsman that gains the trust of bestial companions. They have the ability to command the primal beasts themselves. The Beastmaster is a furious warrior that can take the spirits of his companions within himself, thus allowing him to fight with an animal-like vigor and ferocity. Its class fantasy is very pet-focused, alongside the masterful attunement with nature that has been the theme so far. The final mastery for the Primalist is the Druid, with the ability to take forms of several different creatures throughout Eterra. The Druid is the ultimate protector and guardian of Eterra and her lands. Their class fantasy is like that of many other Druids throughout other RPGs. The shape-shifting's awesome, each has its own set of unique abilities and mechanics. The Druid is truly a jack of all trades. Next up, the Sentinel class.
I am the Sentinel. I spent my youth working the forges under Solarum, helping to arm the holy armies of Raya. When I came of age, I was conscripted into the Golden Army and sent to war, wielding the very weapons I helped create. What I found on the battlefield was chaos and the slaughter of innocents. I deserted Raya's army, refusing to be a part of this destruction. Now I travel the land of Eterra, warning its people of Raya's wrath.
The Sentinel is the soldier class turned rebel. Once a warrior of Solarum, Raya's elite army, he fled the senseless chaos of Raya's destructive campaign. The Sentinel is the epitome of the armored soldier or knight class. Their masteries include the Void Knight, a dark warrior with a virtuous past that has consumed void energy and harnessed its power, but that power comes with a price. It is slowly eating away at them, just as the void consumes everything. The Void Knight has control over the very darkness that threatens Eterra's future. Their role in fighting the Mother Goddess's enemies is an obvious one. They're very Death Knight-esque from World of Warcraft, and fulfill the class fantasy of those that enjoy dark power sources and the use of both militaristic melee and magic. The Forge Guard. Once a noble blacksmith, the Sentinel has mastery over hammer and forge. Solar and blacksmith are the finest in the land, and the Sentinel's skills at the forge had no equal, even among the most elite. Now, in order to stop the very forces he once supplied with armaments and take down Raya, he must use those abilities to manifest armor and weaponry, and to be a bulwark of Eterra. The Forge Guard's class fantasy is very engineer blacksmithy, focused with the ability to manipulate molten metal to its bidding, in an effort to defend Eterra and lead its people against Raya and their armies. Last but not least is the Paladin. The charismatic leader, the holy avenger, the knight in shining armor. And with this mastery, sometimes your armor is literally shining. I believe their power to be a variant of the flame paladins that fight in the name of Raya. I assume that the Sentinel learned these powers during their service under this holy army, but now they choose to use them for good. Their class fantasy is the epitome of the Divine Knight, healing their allies and smiting their foes. Next, we'll take a look at the Mage.
I am the Mage, raised in the scholarly city Welrin, and trained in the arcane arts. I became one of the elders. I took on an apprentice to whom I showed kindness and compassion. This was folly. She grew rebellious, entertained dark arts, and was exiled. My guilt over her fate drove me to leave Welrin. Years I spent searching for her, only to hear that Welrin was conquered by the sun god, Raya. Now I travel back to Welrin, determined to fix my mistakes.
The Mage's story is one of tragedy with a redemption arc. He grew up and studied in the city of Welrin. Welrin was once a great and powerful city of arcane knowledge, the college dedicated to the studies of magic. The scholars and explorers of Welrin would recover ancient magics from the temple and study and learn them, allowing them to train their mages and further their understanding of magic. The mage is very knowledgeable in the studies of the arcane and is looking to redeem himself after his failure in preventing his student from succumbing to the forbidden dark and unnatural arts. They have 3 magical masteries, starting with the Sorcerer. When you think of a mage in any other RPG, you're definitely thinking of the Sorcerer. They have the ultimate control over the elements in arcane, allowing them to rain down meteors, Emperor Palpatine their foes, and shoot icicles at will. They are studied scholars of Welrin that have fully harnessed the arcane properties. The class fantasy of the Sorcerer is that of the typical mage, the Gandalf archetype, wizards of Welrin. The Spellblade, a true battle mage. The Spellblade is proficient in arcane and elemental melee attacks, and the ability to enchant their weapons or animate them to have them fight alongside them. Their class fantasy is the mastery of both sword and magic. The cunning and knowledge of war with the intellect and wisdom of an arcane elder. Finally, the latest mastery added to the mage class, the Runemaster. This mastery studies rune magic and runic invocation, allowing for a combination of elements and various unique spells. The Runemasters are magical wardens that have been tasked with stopping a group of mages that have been conducting dangerous arcane experiments. The Runemasters seal these mages away once captured in rune prisons and exile them away through the fabrics of time. Their class fantasies vary Doctor Strange, and they are bastions of the proper use and study of magic and the arcane arts. Sneaking in next is the Rogue.
In the slums of Majelka, I survived by my skill and cunning, a rogue for hire. The wealthy of the city found me useful in making problems disappear. One job changed everything. A disguised Nagasa woman hired me for a hit on the vessel maiden Apophis. The day came. It was her first appearance to the public. My bow was ready. Apophis was in my sight, but just as I was about to loose the arrow, I realized that she was none other than the woman who hired me. Was this a trap? Some game among the priestesses? I wanted no part of it. so I fled. I now travel to Welwyn, looking to put this kind of trouble behind me.
Citizens of the slums of Majelka, the rogue's backstory is a common one of rogues and thieves. Majelka is controlled by the serpent-like humanoids called Nagasa, who worship their god Majasa. We'll deep dive them in future videos. The rogue lives in squalor, among dilapidated homes and dirt roads. They're the lowest of the low on the caste system in this Nagasa metropolis. The slums are overrun by the Scalebane Guild, among other crime rings and syndicates. It's here where the town's poorest fight to survive under the harsh desert sun, often turning to a life of crime. The botched assassination of Apophis the Vessel Maiden has potential lore implications, which we'll definitely visit in another video as well. The rogue masteries include the Bladedancer, Master of Sword and Dagger. This mastery is quick, deadly, and agile. Her movement is fluid and precise, much like a dance, hence the name. The class fantasy this mastery lends itself to is very Assassin's Creed-esque. It's perfect for those of you that like fast-paced combat and movement. The second mastery is the Marksman. With a keen eye and never one to miss her mark, this assassin is deadly with the bow. The Marksman chooses their targets wisely and from a distance. They're patient and precise. This mastery's fantasy is very akin to the Legolas fans out there. The bow is a very niche yet awesome weapon. And who doesn't love dispatching their enemies before they even reach you? The final and latest mastery of the rogue class, the Falconer. This huntress has the cunning of a tactician and the environmental awareness of a survivalist. With the aid of their trusty falcon friend, they outmaneuver and outwit their enemies. This class fantasy has World of Warcraft Hunter written all over it. If you're a super fan of elven rangers or hunters with animal companions, then this is definitely the mastery for you. The final class we'll be exploring is the Acolyte.
I am the Acolyte. I was raised in the city of Welwyn amongst countless books and countless fools. My master was a kind man, but he was as useless as the others. My ambitions took me elsewhere, to the arts forbidden by the elders of the city. I was found out and exiled. They feared my power. I've learned so much in my travels since, but word has come that Welwyn has been conquered. I would like to see this with my own eyes.
The Acolyte is the very apprentice of the Mage class that rebelled against her arcane studies and sought the power of necrotic energies and necromancy. They thirst for more power and will let nothing stop them from furthering their skills in these dark arts. The reason necrotic magic was forbidden by the Order of Mages is fairly straightforward, but mostly due to the fact that it defies the natural laws of magic in the arcane. It tampers with the manipulation of the dead. Also, it appears as though her studies and use of these magics is slowly or has already corrupted her. This could maybe be the cause for her insatiable thirst for power and more consumption of soul essence. Much like the immortal Emperor himself, where many see the bones of the fallen, she sees allies that will serve without question and has no regard for the dead or the damned, only power. Let's take a look at their masteries. Beginning with the Necromancer. This mastery is the ultimate summoner, with the power to raise and shape the dead or bind the wraiths of death itself to do her bidding. The Necromancer leans heavily into the fantasy of having a minion army at your side. The Lich. Death's embrace itself in full form. The Lich took their necrotic magic studies and dialed them up to 11. They feast on the very soul essence of the dead and the damned themselves to amplify their power. They are masters of the manipulation of souls and death magic. This class fantasy is that of death itself. They have the ability to take on the form of a Reaper. If you played Soul Reaver back in the day, this class is definitely for you. Releasing alongside the Rogue's Falconer Mastery was the Warlock. The Warlock is a master of forbidden and dark arts, channeling chaos and necrotic energies to unleash devastation upon enemies. By corrupting and cursing foes, the Warlock manipulates the battlefield with malevolent spirits, chaotic fire, and life-draining forces. She proves to be a formidable foe who can consume the very souls of those who oppose her. The Warlock is the typical Dark Witch Warlock fantasy you find in other games. Their power over the Veil of Death is unmatched, easily tapping into these necrotic powers at will. Whichever class and mastery you choose, know that though their class fantasy may lean in one direction, every class and mastery in Last Epoch has the versatility to be played how you want to play it. Whether that's ranged, melee, unarmed, or the leader of an army of squirrels. The World of Eterra is truly your oyster when it comes to build diversity. I'll have links to all of these in the description, but here are some tools that I'll be using myself to get my build planned out. Pre-launch build creation's not for everyone, and I actually recommend you start the game completely blind. There's an awesome in-game chat to ask questions, as well as the Last Epoch community Discord if you get stuck. The first and obvious of these websites is the Last Epoch website itself, lastepoch.com. This site contains all the necessary surface level information you need to see about the game. The forums are active and awesome, complete with patch notes, community conversations, you name it. They have dev blogs that come out regularly that give insights into their development philosophy. They break down a lot of what has been changed or is planned to be changed in the game. Again, I just wanted to make sure that this was on the list and overview its value. It'll be down in the description. Next up is maxroll.gg. This site is a staple in the ARPG community, offering in-depth guides, creator-curated builds to choose from, solid tools for the game including a character builder, news, and more. This site is a one-stop shop for diving deeper into each class and mastery that Last Epoch has to offer, or just the game as a whole. The final website on the list is another one-stop shop for all things Last Epoch. This site has been a pillar of the Last Epoch community for a long time at this point. It's Damit's Last Epoch Tools. Damit is a prolific website, tool, and database creator that has been in the ARPG space for years and created Grim tools way back when. This is a completely community-run, third-party website that Damit upkeeps. But their list of tools, guides, builds, not to mention the item databases, are fantastic.
Yeah, so I think the goal is to have the more casual player, someone who's hopping in to have a good time, is not interested in like mega end game pushing, who's like, I'm gonna play the game, I'm gonna hop in an end game, I'm gonna enjoy it, I'm gonna hang around and have some fun. We want that player to never feel the need to go find a tool, to never say like, I can't enjoy this without a tool. We want them to have their entire experience be possible to and accessible to just exist inside the game itself and have fun, and there you go. At the same time, we understand there's a huge portion of our audience that really wants to push as hard as they can and really wants to explore those depths, but maybe doesn't have the time to experiment with everything themselves. And these tools that people create are a huge bonus to their enjoyment of the game. And sometimes you can get enjoyment out of the game without actually even playing the game by just using these tools and things like that. And these are not things that we want to really put a damper on or like shut down or anything like that. Like there's lots of great tools with Last Epoch already that people are making on third-party sites, and they are like, I use them in development sometimes even. They're fantastic tools.
Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. The mastery that I'll be playing in 1.0 is the Marksman. Every single game that I play, I always go for the bow class. I honestly don't know why. There's just always been something that I've loved about bow-wielding protagonists. They're tactile and precise. Let me know down in the comments section what you'll be playing, or are currently playing. This is the only time that I ask, and there's a good reason for that. You've shown a true interest in my content by making it this far into the video. Please hit the like and subscribe button if this was informative to you. I want to earn every single one that I get, and I hope that I've earned yours. Stay tuned for future videos that will fully deep dive every lore chapter of the campaign. I'll be working on this series post-launch and releasing them chapter by chapter as I do more research. I also still have a lot more recordings, both audio and video, screenshots, and evidence to get together for my mad theories, so stay tuned for that. Thank you all and have a wonderful launch week. I hope to see you in 1.0. That's all from me. I've been Gav. Stay safe and farewell, travelers.